I would like to announce that this meeting of the Seguin Independent School District has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.043 of the Texas Government Code. It is 6:36 p.m. and Mr. Amador has informed me that we do in fact have a quorum, and then some, right? All right, let's all rise and say our pledges. And how about Mr. Holt, would you lead us, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Now for a short moment of silence. Okay, welcome everybody. We're glad to see a full house. We have quite a few people to recognize this evening. We're going to start off with Dr. Gutierrez's announcements this evening.
Good evening, board members and Seguin ISD community. I would like to take this opportunity to share information and update you on a few events and initiatives. First, our friends at Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union donated funds for breakfast tacos for our transportation department staff on October the 18th as part of the National School Bus Safety Week. I want to thank all of our transportation staff for doing a great job safely transporting nearly 2,500 students about 6,000 miles each and every school day. I've also had the opportunity over the past couple of weeks to take student-led tours at McQueenie, Rodriguez, Breezemeister, Weiner, Kennedy, and Barnes. These student tours were conducted by members of the superintendent's student advisory team and have proven to be very insightful to see how students perceive their campuses. Last Thursday, it was also a great experience experiencing the great Matador Pride at the homecoming parade and pep rally. I enjoyed seeing various student groups along the parade route. The DI students had an extraordinary float. Certainly want to recognize and acknowledge that. And it was exciting to experience the lighting of the M. I would like to thank Seguin High School teacher Tori Butenagel for all of her hard work in ensuring that we had a successful homecoming weekend. Also, congratulations to Marlena Ledesma and Jonathan Martin for being selected as Seguin High School's 2017 Homecoming Queen and King. An update to the 90-day entry plan. I believe that Thursday will be day 60. As superintendent, it seems like it's been longer than 60 days. It's been a lot of fun. Our 4 task forces, comprised of 10 members each, met for the first time last week to begin and develop a plan of action to address areas of opportunity. These groups will prioritize their focus on 4 areas over the course of 3 years. I just want to make it known that this was a process that did require an application. Whether you are a community member, parent, or an employee, you had to go through a selection process, and it had to list references and had to also submit a brief essay to express why you were so passionate about this area. And we did have over 60 applicants that came through. The groups are going to prioritize their focus on special education, multilingual and bilingual education, GT advanced academics, and post-secondary readiness. The task forces are led by curriculum directors under the guidance of the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. Last night, we had more than 40 community members who serve on the Key Communicators Committee meet so that we can better celebrate the positives that are occurring each day at all of our campuses. My goal is to have these individuals become ambassadors for the district to help us promote our successes. This is where we launched the strategic planning that we are now undertaking to help drive the future for Seguin ISD. In addition to that, a team from TASB, the Texas Association of School Boards, is in the process of conducting an independent facilities assessment of our campuses and our school buildings. This will serve as a template for our future dialogue as our facilities committee becomes engaged in the very near future. Ultimately, the collective work of all of these groups will be instrumental in designing the strategic plan to guide the district for the next 5 years. I'll continue to share additional updates as we progress through the 90-day plan and after updates on our comprehensive strategic plan. Some of the upcoming events that we are pleased to announce are the Halloween Fun Fest hosted by the Special Education Department on October the 30th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. here at the district offices. Community forums to solicit stakeholder feedback on November the 1st and November the 2nd from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. on both nights here at the district office as another component to kick off strategic planning. For those community members who are unable to attend, we will also be sending out a survey with some of the same questions that will be posed during the community forum to people in our community for feedback. On November the 6th, we will host the State of the District presentation in the Performing Arts Center at Seguin High School from 7 to 8 p.m. And Educate Seguin has agreed to co-sponsor the event and provide refreshments. We will hold a second State of the District in the spring, as this will be an ongoing initiative that I have. And if you or anyone you know is interested in sponsoring future State of the Districts, please reach out to Sean Hoffman in Communications. The community forums and State of the District presentation are open to the entire community and will help us proceed with strategic planning. I'll close with congratulating the Matador volleyball team for advancing to the playoffs once again. While we don't have playoff details, we are proud of these young ladies as they represent Seguin in the postseason. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gutierrez. A lot of dates for us to put on our calendars. All right, moving on to board reports, and we'll start with John.
Thank you, Madam President. It's been a busy month for me. We started off right after our meeting last month with some home game unloading with the football team. The volleyball team came out and interact, as well as student council members came out and helped unload pumpkins at the First Amendment District on Austin Street, where a lot of our elementary schools attend and do some interesting information there. We also had the Seguin Marching Festival, volunteered there, where the band had raised well over $12,000, hosting a marching festival. Had 14 other districts come in and perform, and it was a great little endeavor for them. We also had the Sports Booster Golf Tournament, participated in that as well. That's a big fundraiser that provides our athletics with a lot of money to support them. Attended the Guadalupe County Fair Parade, where our cheer and dance and band participated in, as well as several of our organizations here, FFA, and also attended the crowning of the new Guadalupe County Fair Queen. Two of our students were previous court members, and the new Queen of the Guadalupe County Fair Parade is our own Haley Gordon. Attended the TASB conference the first weekend in October. Then was able to participate in helping with helping Bo Gonzalez and Ernest Terreras bring back the Burning M at Pep Rally. That was fire marshal, and got approval from them and brought it back, and hopefully that'll be something we can continue for the future. Also attended the Lady Matador Invitational Golf Tournament, where our Lady Matador golf team took second place out of the 9 schools that attended. And I think that's why I was
That's pretty full month.
I did miss one thing. Went to the UIL marching contest this past weekend, and where our band received ones, and will be attending the UIL area marching contest this Saturday at Leander.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Eppenberger?
I attended the celebration of 2 former athletes into the Wall of Honor at the Gobi Harris Gym. I attended the TASB conference in Dallas for 3 days. I was able to participate in a demonstration of a new voting machine for the Guadalupe County. They're anticipating on purchasing these new machines next year, not for this election. But it was a very interesting demonstration, and I anticipate or expect that the new machines will save us some time when we have our elections. And I attended the homecoming football game. I'll be participating in the Seguin Education Foundation meeting next Monday to review the grant application. And I've been reading in the book that was given to us.
Okay. I have been to various athletic events. I do want to congratulate the Lady Matadors. They're just really having a phenomenal year. And last Friday night's football game was a real, clincher. And I think that it was pretty exciting to see the kids, how they really stepped up and stayed in the game there. Well, not all of us, but a number of us did go to the Texas Association School Board Convention in Dallas. It was three days, and we attended a lot of really great sessions. We were able to report on some of those sessions. We had a board workshop the Monday, I think it was the Monday after we came back, and that was an interesting dialogue, I think, because we all attended different sessions. It was interesting to hear what we all came away with from that workshop. We also had, as Dr. Gutierrez mentioned, the key communicators meeting yesterday that I attended, and I'm really excited. I thought that we left that room with some really positive feelings and some great potential, I think, for seeing some changes here in the community. I want to thank you, John, for helping out at that band competition that we had here, because in all other band parents, I see some out there, that was quite an endeavor. It was a very long day, and I didn't realize they had made $12,000. That is very, very impressive. So congratulations to the whole band family. I was lucky enough to go to the UIL competition this Saturday, and I was extremely proud of the Matador band. It just brings chills to watch them. I'm just so proud of this band. It's just something that this community and the school district, we've been able to really put them on a pedestal for a number of years now. And we're all thinking about this coming Saturday when they have another one. For the Seguin Education Foundation, I'm lucky enough to sit on the grant committee, so I've read through, I believe, 32 grant applications, and we're meeting tomorrow to sit down and discuss those grant applications and try to make some very hard decisions about which ones are going to get funded. We had a lot more applications this year than we've had in the last 2 years. And also with the Seguin Education Foundation coming up this Saturday, if you haven't signed up yet and you want to run alongside Dr. Gutierrez, he's going to be running in the Healthy Nut Run, which is a part of the Pecan Fest here in the city. It's a 5K run. It'll take place at Sarkey Park. So if you need more information, just talk to me or Ms. Effenberger. We can give you more information on that. Ms. Ronger?
I am a member of the building committee, and as such, I've been attending numerous meetings concerning the building and the various little problems that have been fixed or have developed. So far, as of last week, we're still within budget and in time. Hopefully that will continue and everything will be finished by next month. Besides all those meetings, which are quite a few, I also started attending as a member of the facilities committee. I started looking at some of the schools, some of the closed schools and some of the open schools, just a few. And it has been an eye-opening endeavor for me. I mean, I've seen that there's a lot of room for improvement. But that's for another time, and there's a facilities committee that's going to be getting together, and they will be touring the buildings as well. And I would say this, if any one of you is interested in attending or being a member of this committee, you ought to consider finding out who your trustee is and giving him your name and tell him you want to be a part of that committee. So, and if it's all filled up, maybe we can keep your name for whatever else we decide that we're in need of. And it would be nice to have some people to tell us, that you're in my district, and for whatever comes out, I would consider it to be a member of that committee. And I think that has been a full job for me so far.
Mr. Jenkins?
I as well attended the PASB conference in Dallas. The homecoming football game, of course, that was a pretty exciting game. Ben and I have toured now 5 campuses, and two of them were no longer in use, and then one was the alternative school, and then we toured McLean and Weiner today. Ran short on time to attend Sager, but we'll have that next week. But like you said, it has been eye-opening, and we're going to get a whole bunch of pictures together at some point. So probably reports to follow. TASB is going to be doing a campus-wide tour also, so we'll have to report on that too. But principals have been very accommodating, very lots of information from them. We appreciate that.
Ms. Reel?
I also attended the Key Communicators meeting last night, and it was so interesting and so exciting to get input from the community members that attended. They had some things that, we all think about, but there were also ideas and suggestions and concerns that, maybe we hadn't thought about. So I would highly recommend, if anybody has the opportunity to participate in the community sessions coming up, highly recommend it. And just give them your feedback, and so that going forward on this strategic plan is going to be huge for our district. And it's going to give us a vision and a direction for where we are now, where we want to be, and how we're going to get there. So we would greatly appreciate all of your input.
I'm going blank on your last name. You're all here.
For this past month, nothing new other than saying that somebody had more memories in regards to TASB conference. And on that note, I'd like to say Nancy, give kudos to Nancy, say thank you for getting us in the host hotel after all. For the networking purposes, it's a very, very convenient, obviously next to the convention center where we had it. Football game, of course, last week was very exciting for the kids and the community, and also the band performance after the game was amazing. Those kiddos are putting in a lot of hours, and we really appreciate all the hard work that they put into this, and good luck to them this weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. All right, moving on to item 2, we have campus dress recognition presentations, and I believe Mr. Hoffman is going to introduce the campus.
Good evening, board members. Dr. Gutierrez. It's a pleasure tonight to introduce Mr. Jay Law, our longtime principal of Mercer Bloomberg Learning Center. They're our featured campus this evening, and he's going to talk about some of the great things and the highlights going on at MBLC, and I believe he does have a short video presentation as well.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Gutierrez, thank you so much for the opportunity to serve as the principal at Mercer Bloomberg Learning Center. It's just a wonderful place. The kids there, the opportunities of what they can do and what we can do there with them to help them graduate is just really wonderful. I took the camera around the school for a couple days and took some pictures and a little quick video and put it together. It's a Why MBLC Lets Me Be Me.
MBLC lets me be me by people not judging or bullying. It's just a positive environment.
Let's talk about Tuesday.
Sorry, go ahead.
because they made me believe that I can graduate.
I thought I had it figured out. See, my life would turn out right, and I'd make it here somehow. But things don't always go that easy.
Why does it feel seen at UVU?
Because it allows me to work at my own pace, and it's better for me because I don't like to do work when everyone's just trying to teach me and talk around me, and I don't like that.
I get to do my work on my own, and I don't have to rush.
That I can do anything. Yet other times I think I've got nothing good to bring. But you look at my heart and you tell me that I've got all you seek. Oh, and it's easy to believe.
The great thing about MDLC is you're self-paced. You get to you get a lot of one-on-one action with your teacher if you need help. So if you can't figure out how to do an algebra problem, you can sit with your teacher. She'll tell you how to do an algebra problem, and it's just a great learning environment, and it's helping me figure out what I'm going to do with my future.
And what are you going to do? Graduate. Graduate. I'm going to graduate.
So you see, the environment I have is to try to motivate the students to do something. They come in and a lot of them are lost. They have a lot of anxiety, they have a lot of issues. We try to create a home, a family. And so we really work with the kids to try to help them overcome their issues. And that's why I left my student there. You know, he said, "You made me believe I can graduate." And I got permission to share this. He actually dropped out of school last year. He is actually a 2016 student. He should have graduated in 2016. He came to me last year. It didn't work. He had trouble. He dropped out with us. So he came back to me over the summer and he talked to me. So I made an appointment with him. 2 days later, it was raining, and when his appointment was there, he walked all the way from Baxter Street all the way over to the school in the rain to make his appointment. It was just barely late. So I talked to him, had him write an essay about what he wanted to, and drove him home. And he told me, he said, "Sir, I've got to get this diploma. I can't just sit at home doing anything." So the next day, 2 days later on the appointment again, he showed up on time. I re-enrolled him, and he's now down to one course. He will finish. So, and that's what we try to do is and all of our kids have those stories and have those things, and I just love it. And it's just the best experience and best job I've ever had, to be able to work with kids like that and to be able to make a difference. And the staff back there, I have a couple of Mr. Rangel who knocks on the doors and beats them and drags them into school, and Miss Martha, who's been doing this for 54 years. I mean, she's here teaching English and pounding EOCs out of them. I mean, we all try to work together. We all try to create the environment so that it's non-threatening and they want to come. So we're doing what we can. So thank you all very much for y'all's support.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 2B, we have student and staff recognition. I think we'll start off with our student, but I think he's eager to move back to the parking lot.
That's right, Ms. Thomas. I mean, as we've got a very a dynamic, gifted student that Mr. Esquivel is going to come up and recognize here in a moment. But Dr. Gutierrez happened to be at the high school the other day, and we grabbed Rum and got a hold of him, and Dr. Gutierrez was able to present him with this honor that we're going to talk about a little bit tonight. And I don't know if you saw the picture in the Gazette or on the website or in the Daily News, but when you look at these two, they look like they could be related, maybe even brothers. So, anyways, And I'm not the only one, because Miss Biddings kind of pointed that out to me as well. She's over there laughing and trying to hide right now. But Mr. Esquivel, if you come forward, please. Thank you.
Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Gutierrez. This evening, I bring forth one of Seguin High School's finest, Mr. Roman Ruiz. Not only is Mr. Roman Ruiz a National Merit Commended Scholar, but he is also a proud member of the mighty Matador Band, obviously, National Honor Society, a 4-year early college high school core complete student, dual credit participation student at Texas Lutheran University, and in the top 10 of his class, and a 2017 National Hispanic Scholar. There are probably other accomplishments, Roman, that I did not mention, but I think I've said enough. Commended students at the 2018 National Merit Scholarship Program, commended students placed among the top 50,000 scorers of the more than 1.6 million students who entered the 2018 competition by taking the 2016 preliminary SAT National Merit Scholarship qualifying test. In talking to Ms. Reese, Roman's mom, she stated to me that Roman is homegrown from kindergarten all the way up to now. He even skipped first grade. Is that true, Roman? Right. Skipped first grade. So that's another accomplishment I didn't mention. There you go. So on October 4th of this month, Roman had the privilege of being acknowledged by Dr. Gutierrez at Seguin High School for this amazing National Merit Commended Scholar Award for us. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a future member of the Seguin High School Academic Hall of Fame, Mr. Roman Ruiz. Would you like me to take him around, sir, or would you like to come? Come over. I've already asked him, sir. Good luck in area, Roman, and tell your fellow Matador Band colleagues, best of luck Saturday at Cedar Park.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Roman.
Congratulations, and I think behind a lot of our very successful students, we have some parents that deserve recognition as well. So I'm going to have Mr. and Mrs. Ruiz stand up, please. And we need those very hard-working volunteers in the district, so thank y'all for your 13 years of volunteerism. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all for
Oh, that's right. You have how many years difference is there between Roman and his sister?
9.
Oh, it's a lot of years. I can't do
I gotta
that.
do one thing at a time.
Okay.
Wait for a babysitter.
All right, thank y'all. Thank you, Roman, for giving up your time on the band practice. Okay, moving on, Mr. Hoffman, we have some Seguin ISD principals as well.
Yes,
Dr. Gutierrez.
Members of the board, community members, it is National Principals Month, the month of October, so school districts across the nation are celebrating and acknowledging the work of campus principals. We have to take time to really think about the work that they do day in and day out. It is probably one of the most demanding roles that you can have within a school system. And I always compare it to that of a pressure cooker, I guess. As a principal, you have the pressure that's coming from your students, your teachers, your community, from central admin. So you've got it coming in all of these different directions every single day. And you have to make very many critical decisions at the drop of a hat, making sure that students are safe, making sure that all students are learning regardless of where they come from and what challenges they face. And I want to take a moment to recognize our campus principals who are working hard to make things happen at their schools. I continue to be impressed with the campuses that I visit, and as I continue to visit classrooms as much as I can, I'm amazed at what I'm seeing as far as the quality teaching that's happening to make sure that our students are ready for after high school, are ready for college, or careers, or the workforce. So I want to take time, if our campus principals, if you'll please stand. I want to acknowledge all of the work that you do and express my sincere appreciation for all you do to make things run smoothly in Seguin ISD. Thank you all.
Yes, thank all of you for coming. We appreciate it. Appreciate your time day to day. It's a lot of work, a lot of pressure. Moving on in the agenda to audience with the board, and we did not have anyone sign up to address the board this evening. So we'll move on to item 4, which are reports and information items. And first up, we have a report from the Seguin Economic Development Corporation. And Dr. Gutierrez, would you like to introduce this one?
Yes, I've had the opportunity to have several discussions with the Executive Director of Economic Development with Seguin, Josh Sniker, who has willingly dedicated some of his evening to come and share a little bit about the development of Seguin. As we all know, I think we're really on, it seems like we're on the brink of some massive growth in Seguin, and obviously that does impact the school district. So my hope is that we would continue to have this dialogue with the city and invite the Economic Development Center to come and provide an annual update to us every year moving forward. I think there's a lot that is happening that is important to share with the board, administration, and the community, because there are some current projects that are going to have a significant impact on the school district. Not only does the city have an impact on the school district, but the school district has a significant impact on the development of the city. So I'll hand it over to you, Josh.
Perfect. Well, Dr. Gutierrez, Seguin ISD board members, thank you for having me tonight. He is exactly right. I really think we're on the brink of good population increase, a wave of development coming in. I'm going to go over some population information, developments in the pipeline, and talk a little bit about our existing industry here in Seguin as well. So kind of start with our population here in Seguin. Currently we estimate our population here in the city a little over 30,000, 30,606 to be exact. That's a 19.2% increase from 2010 to 2015. So we've slowly seen that population increase over time. And it's not just taking place here in Seguin, it's taking place throughout the county and of course the whole state of Texas. 14.9% increase in Guadalupe County in that same time period. Where do we see ourselves in 2040? Well, we're getting pretty close to that 50,000 mark in population. Our planning department is estimating about 2% average annual increase in our population growth through 2040. And my gut tells me I think we'll get to 50,000 a lot sooner than 2040, just the way that we've seen a lot of interest lately from single family developers and some of the projects I'll go over with you tonight. Talking about that existing residential growth, as you can see, we've really started to skyrocket here with the residential building permits issued. Go back to 2013, we only had 73 issued. Fast forward to 2016, 252. That's a 245% increase between those years. And just between 2015 and 2016, we saw a 20.5% increase. So a lot of this increase in these residential permits being pulled are coming from multiple areas. We've got several housing projects that are under construction at the moment and are going through the development phases. Of course, we have Mill Creek Crossing on the northeast side of town that's going to, at final build-out, will deliver over 800 lots. The Meadows at Nolte Farms in Seguin ISD, that's going to deliver at final build-out over 380 lots, and we're expecting final build-out to take place by the end of this year on that project. We have some other ones as well, a duplex development on the north side of town along 123 called Navarro Crossing. We have the Oak Hollow Phase 2, which is adding another 96 apartment units, which will bring that total to 252 units at the completion of construction there. And we also have Winbrook, a smaller size development on the east side of town with a local developer, but that one is expected to deliver 98 residential lots. So there are 3 projects that have really taken off, I would say, since the summer, and we expect all 3 of these projects to break ground likely in the spring of next year. The big one doesn't have an official name yet that we're going with, but it is at the southwest corner of State Highway 46 and FM 725, directly across the street from Vogel Elementary. At minimum, this development will deliver over 800 lots to Seguin ISD, with housing price points estimated to start at about $175 and go up from there. Again, engineering and platting are underway for this development, and we expect it to break ground sometime in the spring, if not maybe late winter, so maybe in the February timeframe of 2018. Move up the road to State Highway 46 and Huber Road. This is a development that had the name Butte Meadows. It is now in the ownership of a new developer, so the name will be changing. It'll deliver close to 500 lots. Developers now telling us now about 491 is what they expect. Price points on this development look to start at 185 and up. And again, just like the development before this, we expect construction to get started in the springtime with this project. First phase should deliver about 140 single-family units. The last one I'll tell you about is going to be a 123 in Martindale. This is outside of the Seguin ISD district, but it's still important to mention as we're going to see a lot of the growth take place between both school districts in the area. It'll deliver 330 single-family lots, and those price points are in the 220s and up. Again, spring time frame for that development as well. So we definitely want to keep you all abreast of these residential developments, as it will have an impact on the population of the schools here. But it's been a rapidly evolving situation with specifically these 3 developments from the summer until right now. Kind of transition over into the industry and labor market side of things. We've seen a healthy increase in our labor market population over the past 4 or 5 years. 7.4% increase from 2010 to 2015, and the labor market is the population of individuals who are employed and unemployed who are actively searching for jobs at the moment. I do like to pay attention to this line here that I call the surrounding area. This is the labor market population for Guadalupe County and the 6 surrounding counties. And that population is over 1.1 million, which outnumbers the actual San Antonio MSA labor force population. And I have some slides upcoming here which will kind of highlight the importance of that region. Jobs by industry. I don't think it's a secret to anybody how important manufacturing is to Seguin. This is information that was provided to us through Workforce Solutions Alamo through a third-party company called ESMI. It's probably our most up-to-date data we have on the labor market, which shows 27% of the jobs in Seguin are attributed to the manufacturing industry. The inflow and outflow, this is where kind of going back to that surrounding area kind of plays into here. This map highlights the population of people who work in Seguin, who might live outside or live inside Seguin and work in Seguin. This one is for the 78155 zip code. As you can see here, over 9,800 people work in Seguin but travel from outside the zip code to come in. A little over 6,500 work and live in Seguin, while over 13,000 live in Seguin and go elsewhere for work. It's even a little bit more impressive for the city itself. As you can see these numbers here, and one number that our statistic that we like to kind of tout, and it kind of shows the broad net we can kind of throw out there to capture a labor force population for employers, both our existing employers and businesses looking to relocate to Seguin, is that 35% of Seguin workers travel greater than 25 miles to their job every day. So just like a healthy economy, you're going to go outside your area to distribute your goods and infuse new money into the economy. You can't kind of put all your eggs in one basket and hope you're going to find all the labor force that you're looking for in one geographic area. So kind of highlights the importance of casting the net further, and that we're able to capture a large region for our employer base here. Again, kind of going back, manufacturing does matter. It's really the backbone of our economy here in Seguin. Over 1 in 5 jobs are in the manufacturing industry. There's over 130 manufacturing establishments within Guadalupe County, and not just to Seguin, but to the region, the San Antonio region as well. Over 49,000 jobs are within the manufacturing sector. And we do have some really name brand companies that operate here in Seguin and have some very important operations. Continental, a global Fortune 500 company, Caterpillar, Commercial Metals, Niagara Bottling, the list goes on and on. Here's what you can kind of see what manufacturing contributes to our gross regional product. And this is taking a look at the 78155 zip code. Manufacturing accounts for 28% of that $1.7 billion GDP that we have there. So since 2008, we've worked on several recruitment and expansion projects that have added thousands of new jobs to this community and hundreds of millions of dollars in capital investment. The important thing I want to highlight here is that we continue to focus on relationships with one another. We've really worked closely with the folks here at Seguin High School and throughout the ISD on our talent pipeline initiatives. It's very important that we communicate with one another and bring industry into the fold in order to retain the businesses that we have here, recruit new businesses, and establish a strong talent pipeline to feed the jobs, not only for today but for the future. This is I think a partnership that's been long overdue, but it seems to be running full force right now. With school districts, the Economic Development Corporation, the ISDs, even the Alma College's Central Texas Technology Center playing a role in that. And just the importance of some of the programs that we have through this as well, the Alamo Academies program. And one last thing that I'll kind of I guess break some news, or a little bit of news, I guess, is that we went out and partnered with our economic development folks in New Braunfels on a grant to purchase some CNC equipment that will be housed at the CTTC in New Braunfels, and it will be available to students who are participating in the Alamo Academies program to train on, to earn certifications for. So we have a lot of companies here in Seguin and the region that utilize that equipment or are looking for that skilled worker, a CNC machinist. So this will really help kind of fill that skills gap. And we're looking to do more things like this to improve our talent pipeline in the future. So kind of leave it at that, and I'm open to any questions. I do appreciate your time tonight, and I look forward to the continued partnership with you all on the board, Dr. Gutierrez, and everybody else here at Seguin ISD.
Yes, sir.
Could you update us on the status of the Newquest development, just on the other side of 46, in between 46 and 464?
Yeah, so we actually were in Houston last week and had a meeting with Newquest. Newquest is kind of taking a different approach in the way that they're going to attack this development. They'll likely be looking at starting with some single family, with retail kind of evolving the way it is, and some uncertainty on the future of instability of, I guess, brick and mortar retail. So they have been working and trying to work with developers within the San Antonio area and developers out of the Houston area as well to try and kickstart that project. But that's kind of the way that they're headed with that development. We continue to work and assist them on the recruitment side for retail on that side. It's definitely been a slower process than I think we all anticipated, but we still continue to work with them, and the end goal is to get that project off the ground.
So I noticed on your report that there was like 400 housing units, I believe. Housing units to be determined.
Yes.
400 was Greens Point. And Greens Point, that was the other one. Greens Point, is that making an advancement on that yet?
There's advancements and changes. That's another evolving development. But with these 3 developments that we have in the pipeline expected to break ground, I think it's really going to be a shot in the arm for a couple of these ones that have been stagnant for a little bit. So that's definitely some good news, especially I think when it comes to Greens Point as well.
Any other questions? The one that's over by Vogel, wasn't that originally, like a few years back, a different development? Was it sold?
It was a proposed development, and back then the city paid to add some infrastructure to that area, a wastewater line, and that wastewater line has kind of sat dormant and been awaiting the development in that area. So now that we have this one coming in, the developer will be able to utilize those resources that are there to handle new development. So, this is really going to help our cause, especially on the retail front too. We know that the demand, especially with the residents here in Seguin, is to have new and diverse retail options. And one thing that retailers tell us is that there's not enough homes coming out of the ground. Well, we're definitely going to be utilizing this in the 1,600 homes that we expect to be delivered with just these 3 projects alone to really tout the advantages of retail opportunities in Seguin.
Any other questions, Ms. Real?
That's my district, that local area, so I have a strong interest in this. There was, just north of Vogel on 46, there was development.
Sky Valley. So there actually is an active developer taking a look at that site. The challenge with that is that when the original developer went bankrupt, the lots were platted, each lot was sold off individually. The majority of the lots, I would say a good 80% of them, are under the ownership of one entity, but there's a good amount of lots scattered throughout the development that are owned by several different owners. And the challenge of getting all those property owners to sell to one developer has been what's kind of holding that up throughout the years. So this new developer who's trying to tackle that and reach out to the over 20 different landowners that might own just little half-acre lots within that Sky Valley development is said he's up to the challenge. So it's kind of in a wait-and-see mode. That's, I guess, one thing a lot of people don't know about that and why it still remains the way it is today. But I'm hoping he can pull that off.
And then there's also the golf course.
We've had some interest actually in single-family developers taking a look at that. It's just been some of the infrastructure challenges with that, and also just general site development, especially when it relates to detention and drainage and things like that, have been kind of the hindrance for developers on that site who've been kind of focused their attention elsewhere.
So is it still being planned on residential development?
That's how we're marketing it, is for residential development and working that way. And hopefully, we'll find a developer that would like to tackle that project as well.
Are there wastewater services out there?
There are, it's now that we have the interest, it's kind of become first come first serve. There's limited capacity on these lines. It can't accommodate everybody, and once you come in and plat your lot, that kind of reserves that capacity for you and your development. So, that's the interest that we've seen, and that's what we're telling the developers is the sooner you come in, the sooner you get platted, the sooner we can guarantee that infrastructure capacity will be there for you.
Well, I'm going to go back to, I'm changing topics on you because I just don't know what the acronym CNC stands for.
It is computer numerical controlled machines. So they're used in manufacturing. Essentially, I kind of think of it as kind of a reverse 3D printer in a way. You take the raw material and it kind of cuts it into the shape or the object that you're wanting by programming that information into the computer. So those machinists are very sought after at the moment. They are their compensation they're very well compensated careers. And that's what we're really trying to promote is, especially what the industry we have in our backyard, is there is a career pathway for you here in Seguin, regardless if you choose to go to college or not. If you go to college, there's still one for you here. But if you don't, you can definitely make an honest living and make a healthy wage within your own backyard with the employers we have here.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am?
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Josh.
Okay, moving on to item 4B, we have Missing Matadors Matter. So we're going to hear about the district's attendance initiative from Ms. Legore.
Ms. Legore and the team. President Jimenez, Dr. Gutierrez, and school board. We are all here today from the Student Services Department, so I'm just really proud of my team for staying so late with us all, because we start real early in the morning picking up kids and bringing them to school. But they all really wanted to be here because this is an initiative that really came from the entire team as something that we really wanted to promote with all attendance. And we've been, working on that. We actually came up with a logo, thanks to the technology department and Jeffrey Lee, and shirts, which all the attendance clerks at the campuses are also going to get because we came up with a nifty thing to call it, which is Missing Matadors Matter, because missing matadors do matter to all of us. Because missing school means that those students are missing out. So tonight what we're going to talk to you all about is what this initiative is, what it means, what we hope that it's going to do, and how we're going to be involving Seguin's parents as well as the community more in our efforts with attendance district-wide. So from the Student Services Department, who you have in front of you today, because you read about them in my update, but you don't actually see their lovely faces as often as you see mine. So we have Vicki Navarro. She is the person who always answers the phone. So I would say, she is the voice of Student Services Department. And then over here we've got Sarah Martinez. She is the coordinator of the department who is regularly in court and has the filing and whatnot involving parents and students who are not going to school in court. Then we have Armando Gonzalez. He's been with the district for 8 years. Yeah. And he's one of the student services officers. Used to be called truancy officers, but we're kinder and friendlier now. And his counterpart is student service officer Cynthia Ehring. And then we also have Teresa Cuevas, who handles all of the homeless, migrant, and foster care students, and of course dealing with their attendance, because those are the most vulnerable and at-risk students in the district, making sure that they are of course going to school as well. So that's how we all fit together. And what we're here really to talk to you all about is about the fact that all absences really do matter, and trying to get that word out to the community more in a deliberate way. What the state does is it qualifies chronic absences as missing so much school for any reason whatsoever that a student is academically at risk. And it's really defined as missing 10% or more of school for any reason. And 10% is really about 1 day a month over the course of a school year. So you look at how do those absences come together? Well, you've got the excused absences, so those are students that are sick, going to the doctor, funeral, family issues, any issue that a student may not be in school, but there is an excuse as to why. Then you've got your unexcused absences, which that is truancy, and that's really what this team has always been heavily involved in dealing with the students who do not have an excused reason as to why they are absent. And those are the cases that wind up in court. But by and large, there's many more students absent from school that have excuses, but still have too many absences. And then also added up with that are suspensions, which we try to avoid because being out of school and out of instruction is not good for students. But that is what adds up to our chronic absence which is a statewide issue. We want to make sure that those numbers stay as low as possible, and that is really going to involve getting the word out to the community that you need to have students in school, with the goal being out of school no more than 10 days in the whole year. And that seems reasonable, especially when you all consider the workforce. And if you are absent 10% of the time, you may not have a job anymore. So why does improving attendance really matter? Well, we know a lot of data about students who are not attending school, nationally as well as statewide, and then drilled down into Central Texas. So the Attendance Works group puts out a lot of information, and when you look at it, we know that attendance matters. Students who go to school are more exposed to language, and that is very key in learning to read. So starting in pre-K, attendance equals exposure to language-rich environments, and that's especially key for low-income students. They are learning to be task and do things on time. Students only benefit from classroom instruction if they're there. We have great classroom instruction going on, but if students aren't there, they miss it. And then when they get back to school, the teacher has to back up for those students who missed it and need to be moving ahead for the students who were there. And it becomes just a really constant battle for our teachers to have to deal with. Students who go to school and have good attendance are on track for success. We know that chronic absences are exactly the issue that lead to a student not reading by 3rd grade. And if they're not reading by 3rd grade, the chances of them having trouble in middle and high school is much greater, and then their chance of dropping out is much greater. So it all goes back to attendance and reading by 3rd grade. We know that those students who attend school are more college and career ready. It's really cultivating the habit of going to school, not only being there, but being there on time, because those are things that are important for going to college and successfully completing college or a trade school or a career and any kind of job. You have to be there, and you have to be there on time. And if they aren't there and aren't on time to school, they are not going to get that together for their future. And engagement. We all know that really engaging students in learning is key. So one of the components of a school district is creating those engaging learning environments so that students want to be there. And then really the effective practice is all of us. This is not a school issue alone. This is not a parent issue alone. And it's not a community issue alone. It's an issue that we all have together. So it's really all of us working together to make it known that attendance matters. So what are we doing? What are our nifty shirts? Other than the fact we do have nice shirts now. What else are we doing? Well, things that we've created, and we wanted you all to see them, is we have the parent brochure. So Missing Matadors Matter. Well, who do they matter to? Missing Matadors matter to parents. So what we do to talk to them about their students who are not going to school is we have this parent brochure, which is very full of good information, including what parents can do to help their kids and help the school and make sure their kids are there. Such as when to schedule appointments, knowing needing to have their children there at that 10:30 in the morning hour, what to do if their child's not there, avoiding those vacations and scheduling them during times that we already have breaks built into the calendar, and having a plan B. Parents, when they wake up late, alarm clocks don't work, transportation's not working, always knowing what to do next, because those things happen. And so we work with parents to develop what those things are. So these went out at registration, and they continue to go out when students register or need reminders as to how to help their students. We also have information on the website, but when a student is absent, we provide those phone calls, emails about the absence notification, which I know some parents may find annoying and almost too much information, but the reason why you get the phone call and why you get the email is just to make sure that parents are informed. Because we hear from students all the time, oh, that's not really an absence, my teacher just had, no, that's not true. When you get that phone call, you get that email, it's double checking with the school, because kids have a way of telling their parents something that might not be accurate. We also have truancy warning home visits. So truancy related home visits, that's when you see the two vehicles say Seguin ISD on the side, those are us, which are going out to the home visits talking about the unexcused absences. And that keeps these people completely busy. But there are also home visits that happen by way of administrators on the campuses for all of those absences. And then letters that go out also as warning letters to the parents informing them of their children's absences. Then we have campus intervention meetings, which are happening, which will happen on the campuses, and then the district intervention meetings, which is with this team when the case is likely going to go to court. So that's a lot of intervention, a lot of information. We want parents to know when their child's absent. Besides, they have the parent portal, which we're always advocating that parents get on so they can see their children's absences and don't rely on getting a warning letter in the mail. They could be proactive and look at their children's attendance daily. So missing matadors matter to Seguin ISD, to the campuses and to the district. So what we have Vanna. We have campus posters, which are going to be at each one of the campuses throughout Seguin ISD. And thanks to the technology department, they're very pretty. So you all have a copy of those. And feel free to post those, wherever you all are at as well. On top of just information that goes on the campuses, we have the calls out, the emails, the letters, and the visits home, and the intervention meetings. To let you know what the campus intervention meetings are really about, it's about meeting with them and talking through, identifying why they're not going to school. Instead of just punishment for not going to school, it's finding out why. What kind of barrier do we have to going to school? What is going on? It may involve the need to get social workers and whatnot through our department involved. Is it a homeless issue? Because then we've got Teresa who can come in with that component. What is the problem? Is it an alarm clock issue? We have alarm clocks. What is it? Is it just laziness and we need to just work with family on that one? Okay. We just need to know what it is. So that really starts at the campus level and involving student incentives, also the engaging instruction. And then the attendance software that you all approved is in process. We hopefully by the end of the semester we'll have it all programmed and everybody trained. So that will improve our efficiency with how we're actually identifying these students. Until then, we are doing that by hand, making sure we're on top of the students who are accumulating the absences. So the letters are still going out, they're just not going out in as efficient a way as they will when RAWE is completely implemented. And then Seguin, missing matadors matter to the community, to Seguin, because overall if these students, yes. We made a different poster for businesses. No, that's not it.
Oh, that's the one.
Thank you. This is a poster that we want businesses to post, which is saying to the community that we are proud supporters of the Missing Matadors Matter initiative, that they support what this is all about and that they want students to be going to school as well. We want to really increase the community awareness. When people see this logo, they will see, oh, Missing Matadors Matter, that's what that's about. So we want these posters to be everywhere. And that involves how we partner up with businesses. So we want them to know that the phone number on the bottom for anyone in the community, if you see a student who looks like they should be in school and they're not there, give us a call. We will go look into it. But involving the businesses and partnerships, what we're talking about is really involving them in when they have invoices. If they put, we support Missing Matadors Matter. We really want this to be something that is just around, on business cards, on bumper stickers. Whatever we're going to work with, getting the word out to businesses through a letter and asking them how would they want to get involved with this. And then of course, with idea of sponsorships for incentives and whatnot, we are open to any good idea that's out there with businesses to really get that word out. I think the only way we're going to accomplish this is with more people than just us saying Missing Matadors Matter. If we can get businesses on board, that would be great. So, what are our goals? Our real goals here are to have students have less than 10 absences for the entire school year. That gives people an absence a month, plus a little extra one, really, for things that come up. But overall to be in school, because there's so much instruction, and if you do miss school, you do miss out. And then when you miss out, there's that catch up, which is really hard to do. What we want students to do is to earn their grade promotion, to gain their credit, to graduate, and to move on into a college or career that they're successful in. But we all know that it all starts with being in class today, whether you're in kindergarten, whether you're in 12th grade. We all know that. So that's why we want to get this started with you all in support of it. Take your posters, post them.
Give them to somebody.
Give them to somebody.
This one is special.
So now, just have any questions?
Mr. Gore, thank you for the presentation as well as your staff. Last year you addressed the board and you announced that you've been in contact with several local dining establishments and we're eagerly getting them to report when or not serve students after a certain time period. How has that been going on this past year or this portion of the year so far? And are you still getting that input from them?
Well, I can tell you that particularly Mr. Gonzalez, he makes his trip to Sukasa every year because that would be the beginning of the school year requirement. Just to remind them that school has started and breakfast tacos should not be served after, with the start of the school being a little bit later, but definitely by 8:15 they need to be paid for and out the door. We are glad to report that the coffee shop up here, we work very closely with them and they do not serve students after 8:15. That's their cutoff as well. So they know students are off to school. And Mondo and Cindy, actually both, sometimes drive them from the coffee shop to the high school so they can get there on time. But we do get phone calls from like local McDonald's, people who have students there at lunchtime, Whataburger, yes. So yes, we stay in close contact, especially with the businesses within walking distance. But we really just want to continue that kind, and now we give them a poster. With phone number. So that, yes, their management, as it changes, and people do change, that they stay on top of the fact that, yes, we don't want students there during the day. They can go there for dinner and after school after 4.
Good year.
Yes.
Any other questions? I would say I'm really happy to see all of you. I knew that there was a staff behind us. I knew she could possibly do it. So I'm really happy to meet all of you this evening. So
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
This made me promise that they got to hold up things and I would talk.
Okay. All right, moving on to item 5, the consent agenda items. The local states that the consent agenda shall include a number of routine and/or recurring nature grouped together under one action items. All such items shall be acted upon by one vote without separate discussion unless a board member requests that an item be withdrawn for individual consideration. The remaining items shall be adopted under a single motion and vote. So on the consent agenda this evening, we have the approval of board minutes for the regular meeting September 26th and a special board meeting October 4th, both in 2017. The approval of tax collection reports for September 2017. The approval of proposed budget amendments and financial statements for September 2017. The approval of investment report for the first quarter of 2017-18, and consideration of approved certified appraisers for 2017-2018. I do know that I had one change, and it was pretty minor. I think, Nancy, it's something you can fix, and it was on the special meeting that we had on October the 4th. You had Carl Jenkins is absent. Well, he did come in. He came in a little late, but he did come in. So that's one amendment I'd like to make to those minutes. Any other questions or comments on any of these items? Ms. Real?
Yes, Madam President, and just in the interest of financial transparency, I'd like to pull item C, so that we can just get some more information on budget amendments, and I'm reading it right, we said expenditures.
Okay, so you want to pull item C. All right. Any other changes or questions? Do I hear a motion for the remainder of the items? Thank you, Mr. Holt.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Boyce. No other questions? All being in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. All right, moving on to our action items. Ms. Real, I guess we'll go ahead and start off with item that was 5C, the approval of proposed budget amendments and financial statements for September 2017. Mr. Hilberger.
Good evening, President Jimenez and Dr. Gutierrez, members of the board. Happy to answer whatever questions you may have.
Well, when I was looking over the exhibit, and there were some changes to the budget and the amended budget. If you could just go over the things that were changed and stuff,
Okay.
just so that we can understand what it was.
Sure. Why don't we, Mr. Lewis, if you would, can you scroll to the top of that so I can see which one you're looking at? The financial statements with, and I'm assuming, I don't want to assume too much, are you referring specifically to any one of the funds? Are you talking about the general fund, QZAB, food service?
There were amendments to the general fund, and then it looked, I'm sure which one of these words were not. Like on the, were there some expenses paid out of the QZAB money?
Okay, so why don't we go to the bill, or Mr. Lewis, if you would, go down to the report that says the general fund let's do the last one first. It's called Qualified Zone Academy Bond. Let's look at that one. That's the one. Okay. So on this one, what you have are some amendments, and actually if you go to the second page, you can see those amendments described. Okay, right there. You'll see where the budget amendment BUA 623 associated with each of these functions. What this represents in words on this page and in the statement on the prior page, but in words, what this represents are the proceeds associated with the QZAB funds that were budgeted in 16-17 but not spent. So for example, on a given line item, there may have been, and this is hypothetical, I'm not referencing a specific line, but in 16-17, for example, suppose there was $1 million budgeted on a given line item in school year 16-17. And we went through the school year anticipating spending $1 million on that particular line item. Throughout the course of the year, purchases were made against that line item. The budget was reduced, perhaps to the tune of $700,000, leaving a balance of $300,000 budgeted, already approved, everything's been done. It just we haven't spent it. We haven't reached the point of actually expending those $300,000. So the next year, we're required to re-budget that $300,000 all over again in the new school year. So in 17-18, you have to take everything that was not spent, previously allocated but not spent, you have to re-budget that. And that's what these lines are doing right here. For Function 11, Function 51, and Function 81, those are taking the budgets that were there in the prior year and putting them now in 17-18. In the month of September. So that's, basically we go through part of the way through the audit process in order to make sure that when you're dealing with things, for example, construction, there are items that the auditors really want to take a close look at to make sure that they don't want to push that expenditure into the prior year, in this case 16-17, or move it out to 17-18. And there could be a host of reasons that would go into that when you get down to the very closer to the end of the year. And the reasons for that can vary. But so we want to make sure that we have that right. And once we know we have it right, we reallocate that budget. So with regard to QZAB, that's what that's dealing with. Now the other adjustment that you're seeing up there, that $120,000 for assigned fund balance, that was approved by the board by resolution last month for initiatives associated with the 90-day plan. So that's what all of those, these types of budget amendments are about. Now what I would like to do, just to make sure that I'm being clear, Mr. Lewis, if you'll scroll up now, this report that you're looking at, go ahead and scroll up just a little bit more, if you would, all the way to the top of this report. This report takes everything associated with QZAB and depicts it for you in one report by itself. In reality, though, what we're required to do is combined QZAB with the general operating fund. So it's a sub-fund, if you will, within the general operating fund. So what we do in the interest of transparency, in the interest of clarity, in the interest of communicating effectively, we take all the QZAB dollars and depict them for you separately here. And then, Bill, if you would please scroll up to the right. That's correct. All the way up. And then this one is the general operating fund exclusive of the QZAB dollars. So this is only the general operating fund. Okay? And then, Bill, if you'll roll up. And now you have what we are required to report, which is the combination of both QZAB and general operating fund. So when it comes to governmental accounting, sometimes it can be almost impossible to communicate in a way that is easy to follow. But we're trying to do the best we can to show the two issues separately and then provide them to you in a combined statement as well. So everything we just discussed is depicted in each of these reports. Now, I could also offer, if you look at the column that says under budget, you've got the green bar across the top says budget, and under there you see current month, and within that section, the two columns, one represented with the header programmatic changes, and the other represented with balance neutral. Balance neutral. Those are your budget amendments in their entirety. On the programmatic changes column, those are the ones that are depicted with information on the page that we just looked at. On the balance neutral, those are minor adjustments from one line to another. We still show them to you. You can see they're not even material in nature, but they balance each other out. What they're doing is taking a particular department may move, for example, technology is a good example. They may have some things associated with data services that instead of putting it in, having it in data services, they want to show it in instructional resources because of the nature of the particular item that they need to purchase. So they move the budget associated with that cost. It's the same dollar in as it is out. It does not change the overall budget. And so those balance neutral changes, we don't write descriptors on all those because there's, it'd be pretty tedious to do so. But we do have that information. We keep an amendment with supporting documentation on every single one, whether it's $1 or $5 million.
Even if we spent time with you and going over and explaining these charts and everything, but when the public looks at them online, when they go over the agenda, it's kind of overwhelming. So I like to have the information explained so that the public can understand it.
Absolutely. And we want to try to provide that clarity as best we can. We've taken a lot of time and effort to look at other districts. How do they present their financials? We've made some subtle changes in response to some of the questions we've gotten. But everyone sees and understands things differently, so it is a challenge. And I absolutely appreciate and welcome the questions so that we can provide that clarity. Hopefully I've done so tonight.
Yeah, they just explain. When I saw the QZAB things, it looked to me like there was money that was being spent. But so what you're saying is just it's reporting it after the audit.
That's correct. We're taking the budget, the budgeted dollars that were not spent in the prior year and allocating them to the 17-18 budget. That's all it is. And when we look at the comprehensive annual financial report, our auditor will provide some more information on that, and you'll see in totality you'll see the value of that particular budget amendment. You'll actually see it as a assigned fund balance because it's reserved for the purpose of QZAB. I'll point that out when we get to that later.
Any other questions? If not, do I hear a motion for approval of the proposed budget amendments and financial statement for September 2017?
Move for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Mr. Holt. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hilbert. All right, moving on to action item 6A, consideration and approval of the district campus performance objectives for the 2017-2018 year. And we have Mr. Schmidt.
President Thomas Jimenez, Dr. Gutierrez, members of the board. I have Cynthia Borden with me, Director of Accountability and Testing. We're going to co-present, going to talk a little bit about the process that we went through on this year's district improvement plan through the District Education Improvement Council. Then we're going to talk a little bit later about what those objectives and what those objectives are. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them at the conclusion of the presentation.
Good evening. We're excited to be here to present this for your approval. Before we get into the goals and performance objectives themselves, we wanted to take you through the process of our decision-making planning improvement cycle for the district. So we start in the spring semester, usually in February, with the comprehensive needs assessment. And in our DEIC, we form 8 subcommittees, and they're listed there: demographics, student achievement, district culture and climate, staff quality, recruitment and retention, curriculum, instruction and assessment, family and community involvement, technology, and one that's not listed, that's district context and organization. That one we unintentionally omitted that off the list. But what they do in their subcommittees, there's a lead from the central office who collects data, brings them to their subcommittees, and they go through the process of data analysis, and they define areas of concern or need. And they came up with certain problem statements within each area. And from there, we took a step back and we reviewed the 5 Seguin ISD board goals that are approved annually by this body right here. This year, we looked at our performance objectives a little bit more closely than we did in the past. Performance objectives are the measurable, objective, annual targets that we use to measure our long-range goals, and they must be based on student achievement data for all subgroups, and that's going to include your all-student population, all of the racial ethnic groups. It's going to include your special ed, your economically disadvantaged group, and your LEP student population. We also have performance measures for any other measure of student performance that arises out of that needs assessment process. And that could include college readiness, your CTE programs, your at-risk students, discipline, attendance, some of the stuff that Ms. LaGore was just going over earlier today. And of course, Texas Education Code 11.251A states that the school board must approve or shall annually approve both the district and the campus performance objectives. We would like to emphasize here that the campuses follow the same process as the district. They form their CPOC committees, their campus performance objective committees, and they do their needs assessment. They mirror the district's performance objectives. So when you go in and look at the campus performance objectives, you'll see that they're very similar to the district's. After we adjusted the performance objectives, then we go back to what came out of the needs assessment. And we identify the research-based strategies and define activities to address the performance objectives. We have to prioritize those because we may not necessarily have all of the resources to address everything that the needs assessment committees were interested in addressing. But we determine the resources, we identify the persons responsible, we come up with a timeline, and we identify the evidence of impact. And then we implement the plan. And that's kind of where we are right now in the current planning cycle. We're implementing the district improvement plan. But that's not all. Soon, next month, we are going to start our formative evaluation. The DEIC will look at, we'll pull data for the first quarter, and we'll see how we're doing for our performance measures and for all of our strategies. And again, the campus performance objective committees, they do the same thing in their CPOC meetings. At the end of the year, we will do a summative evaluation for the performance objectives to make sure that we have met our goals. And again, that's done through the DEIC and the campus performance objective committees. By the end of the year, June of 2018, we will already be in the cycle for the 18-19 year. We will be wrapping up our needs assessment for the next year. So it's a continuous improvement cycle. We never stop. It's not an event. It's a process, and we continue to go through it. And now Mr. Schmidt is going to talk to you about the goals and performance objectives.
Thank you, Ms. Board. Just to reiterate, the whole process about school improvement is a continuous cycle, and you really don't ever win. One of those things is you always want to continually strive to get better than the year before, especially as the standards raise every year. So I want to take a little bit of time just to show you the 5 goals. First goal is centered around student achievement. We talk about being consistent with instruction, talking about being engaging, having rigorous, relevant coursework and instructional strategies to motivate students. The whole goal here is to get students to be successful in post-high school. For some kids, it's going to be college, it's going to be military, it's going to be career, it's going to be certain types of certification courses. Our goal is to get them through, let them have that choice at the end of when they graduate. So that's goal 1, focused on student achievement. The performance objectives are going to be centered around, objective 1 is going to be teaching and learning. We talk about using aligned curriculum, making sure that we are teaching what needs to be taught according to the state of Texas, making sure that our practices are strong, engaging, that we're hitting all of our populations and subpopulations of students. Very important that we are able to quantify and show an increase in student achievement. And I want to get back to what Ms. Borden mentioned earlier. You know, the big thing, you can come up with very grandiose plans to change the world, educationally speaking, but what we have to do is to monitor. And we have to monitor that 4 times a year. So November 13th is when our Educational Improvement Council meets again, and that will be where we'll be communicating prior to that. At that point, we're going to look at where our progress is already. Make sure that we are not just talking the talk, but hopefully that we are seeing some evidence that things are being implemented. Performance Objective 2 talks about post-secondary readiness, as I mentioned earlier. Very important to be able to make sure that we are getting students to not just pass at the approaches level, but we want to see that our students are meeting and mastering. Our students are going to be ready for things much greater after they graduate from high school. Performance Objective 3 talks about whole child, social, emotional learning, which is a big piece that in this day and age of high stakes testing, you cannot forget that. We have to teach all of the students, and every student's going to come with a different story. It's up to us to know that story and to meet them where they're at. Still maintain high expectations, but go through and see what's written there. It talks from everything from lifetime fitness to attendance. I'm looking forward to collaborating more with Ms. Lagore and her group. Basically the social, emotional health, as well as extracurricular activities and the emotional support to all populations. That's student achievement. Goal 2 is going to talk about probably one of the most important things. You can't really have anything, educationally speaking, until you have a safe and nurturing environment. We want to make sure that what we do is safe, positive, and things are secure for all of our students. That has to be in place. Talk about safety for Performance Objective 1, making sure that the measures are put in place to maintain that safety for all students and as well as staff members. Also, we work on fostering a positive climate. We want to make sure that the campuses are going to promote that climate. We want to get that climate to where it's culture, and we are all working on behalf of our students, making sure that it is a safe and nurturing learning environment. And part of that is respecting diversity and respecting what it takes to foster a positive learning environment. Goal 3, parent, family, and community engagement. This is one that also you can never master this. You can always kind of work at it, try to get more involvement through communication, bringing that community piece in. We want to be able to promote the Seguin ISD vision and mission and goals while building those relationships with the community and the families. Performance Objective 1 talks about parental involvement, the programs, the communication piece to get families out, to let them know, to tell our story, what's going on in Seguin ISD. Performance Objective 2, the public relation and communication piece. We work with all members of the superintendent's leadership team with members of Seguin ISD to make sure that we are talking about what's happening, letting people know through newsletters, through call-outs, working very closely with Mr. Hoffman and his group to let the community know what's going on. And then finally trying to foster partnerships. There's been a lot of talk lately, whether it's the key communicator event last night, just in our other interactions about all that's happening here in Seguin right now and what we have as far as, in order to make some change, it's really on us to develop some of those partnerships and make them mutually beneficial for the community as well as the schools. Talk about operational effectiveness and efficiency. Very important that we make fiscally sound decisions. There's 2 performance objectives here. Objective 1 deals with effectiveness. That's developing the tools to be able to measure, to make sure that we are allocating the resources in an effective way. And then Performance Objective 2 is the efficiency piece, coming up with strategic solutions to optimize the allocation of resources, making sure that we maintain a strong financial position. We meet on a weekly basis at Central with the SLT, and we go through and we really kind of try to communicate really with every piece to be able to make sure that what we're doing is really operationally efficient and effective. And finally, human resources. Building a highly effective workforce. We talk about how we're going to recruit. We have all the time, we have student teachers coming in, we have principals working with those student teachers, very oftentimes communicating, collaborating with Ms. Whitman and her group to make sure that we are not only hiring, but we are retaining our staff. We're going to be focusing more on that onboarding piece, trying to provide that mentoring to first and second year teachers, because we know that's that crucial time. If we can get them to, through our organization to be supported, there's research shows that we're going to be able to keep them for a while educating our students. And we all know that the most important factor in that classroom is an effective teacher to build relationships with the students. Performance Objective 1 talks about equitable staffing, making sure that we are staffed 100% of our campuses, recruiting, supporting, retaining teachers as well as administrators. And finally, talking about the appraisal piece, making sure that we are not only implementing the T-test piece and the other appraisal measures for different members of SISD, but also making sure that we are calibrating and making sure that we are appraising everybody in a consistent manner. So those are the performance objectives. We went over the process. Are there any questions?
I just have one question. If you could go back to goal number 3, objective number 1. We had a lot of discussion last night in our key communicators meeting about trying to involve parents. So as I look at that, it says we have programs and activities. Are those going to be a campus-by-campus decision, or is there a program in place for the entire district where we try to pull parents in to become more engaged at the campus level?
It truly is campus by campus, as Ms. Borden had mentioned earlier, talking about basically that their plan paralleling what we have in place. So you may have, depending on the need, depending on what organizations are active at that campus, different groups. We haven't really put anything in place so far saying you know, mandating what you're going to do, but we definitely will work to try to remove barriers and make sure that we can try to make it happen if at all possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? If not, do I hear a motion for approval of the district campus performance objectives for the 2017-2018 school year?
Madam President, I move that we approve the district and campus performance objectives as presented by the C&I department.
All right, thank you, Mr. Holt. Do I hear a second? Second from Mr. Almendor. No further questions? Everybody raise your right hand. You approve? Okay. At the same time, we got a unanimous decision there. Thank you all for your time this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to action item 6D, the approval of the comprehensive annual financial report for the year ending June 30th, 2017. Mr. Gilbert.
All right, well, this is the highlight of the year for the business department. And I'm sure you all thoroughly enjoyed reading every single page of this 94-page document. I will say, though, that we heard a fantastic and very encouraging report from the Seguin Economic Development Corporation, and a lot of the information that they shared with you is corroborated by what is termed the statistical section in the audit report. Now, because they may use different source data than we do, they have access to a lot more, I don't want to use the term inside information in a derogatory way, but they're closely tied to some of the things specific to the area. So their numbers might not be exactly tied to these, but they do support each other. And ours are more on a trend basis, looking back. Of course, theirs are more looking forward. But a lot of very interesting reading for a non-financial person in the statistical section. So if you don't look at anything else, I'd at least encourage you to look at that other than fund balance, because I know everybody goes straight to that on the general operating fund. But what we have tonight is we have Jimmy Rommel. He's the partner with Maxwell Locke and Ritter. He's got some information he's going to share with you to highlight the comprehensive annual financial report, also known as the CAFR, for 2017. And when he's done, I'd like to also then take a moment to discuss something that was brought up at the previous board meeting regarding fund balance and possibilities of looking at policies assigning fund balance. I'd like to show what that would look like with respect to real numbers that we have now from the financial report. So we'll have that. We give the floor now to Mr. Rommel. And I'll hand those out.
So good evening, Madam President, Dr. Gutierrez, members of the board. Once again, my name is Jimmy Rommel with Maxwell Locke and Ritter, and we'll be going through the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2017. So just to let you know, I did meet with Mr. Almador and Ms. Reel last Thursday morning and went through this document in great detail, spent about an hour going through everything. So this evening, I'm going to go through at a much higher level, but obviously if you guys have any questions about what's included in the report, we can definitely discuss those as well. And so what Tony mentioned earlier as far as the report you got this evening, there was one change from, I guess, the version you guys received on Friday. What had happened was the amounts, and we'll actually go through it when we go through the actual report, but one of the amounts in the general fund for the QZAB fund balance piece, the amount that was initially included in the first version was a gross number, meaning it was the gross cash that was on hand as of the fiscal year end. It did not factor in the liabilities that had been incurred as of the end of the fiscal year but had not been paid. So now the new number will bring that fund balance number down from what it was before, because it needs to reflect expenditures incurred but not necessarily paid as of the end of the fiscal year. So we are going to be issuing a unmodified or clean opinion on the district's financial statements for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2017, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide as an external auditor. So if you now want to turn to page 13 in the audit report, this is your governmental funds balance sheet. And so on the first column on this page is your general fund. And so at the bottom of this column, you'll see a section for fund balance. And so as I mentioned, the amounts under restricted for authorized construction, that is your net QZAB proceeds as of the end of fiscal year 17. It's showing up as restricted because it can only be used for a specific purpose. Therefore, it can't be shown as unassigned. Unassigned fund balance is the amount that can be used for general operations of the district. So at the end of fiscal year 17, you had about $19.4 million of unassigned fund balance, and that is within the recommended best practices from TEA as far as the amount to have on hand at the end of the fiscal year. And then the following column is your debt service fund. So at the end of fiscal year 17, you had about $8.8 million of fund balance, which is going to be used for future principal and interest of the bonds that you have currently outstanding. The next column is your capital projects fund. This is remaining bond proceeds. So once again, it's restricted for use. It can't be used for just anything. And at the end of fiscal year 17, you had about $12.8 million, I believe, in fund balance there. And then the final column on this page, these are your non-major governmental funds. So what these are, they're your special revenue funds that are derived from local, state, and federal grants. Once again, they can't be used just for general operations. And you can see there you had about $846,000 of fund balance at the end of fiscal year 17. If you want to now turn to page 14, this is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Once again, focusing on the general fund first, you'll see at the bottom you had an increase in fund balance in your general fund of about $15 million. The primary reason for this increase was obviously the QZEP proceeds that came in for $10 million. And then also, if you recall, last year the district transferred money from your general fund to your capital products fund to help fund construction prior to the knowledge of actually being able to receive QZEP proceeds. So once the QZEP proceeds were received, the amount, or not all of the amount, but some of the amount that was initially transferred last year now was transferred back to your general fund. So ultimately, you'll still be using the same amount of authorized proceeds out of your general fund to pay for construction. It just now, it's only a portion that's going to be paid currently. The rest will be paid through QZEP funds and then repaid by the district using general fund operating fund balance. So it actually defers the cash flow out of those improvements that you're making at the district. And then you'll see your debt service fund, the fund balance remained relatively consistent with the prior year, had a slight decrease of about $68,000. Your capital projects fund had a decrease of about $41.6 million, which was expected because as you're spending down bond proceeds, that fund balance is going to come down. So now, if you want to now turn to page 26 and 27. So we're going to start at the bottom of page 26. So there's two recently issued accounting pronouncements that I want to cover this evening. The first one has actually been in your audit report the last 2 years. And what this is the district participates in TRS care. What this standard is going to do, and it's actually going to be effective for your fiscal year 18 audit, is the district will have to pick up its collective share of the unfunded liability related to TRS care. If you recall, 2 years ago, we had a similar implementation related to participation in the TRS pension plan, where you're picking up your overall share of the unfunded pension liability. It shows up on your government-wide financial statements, which are not what you guys operate on. You operate on your fund financial statements, so it doesn't impact fund balance, which we want to make sure we point that out. But for fiscal year 18, there will be the liability is not known yet, but it could be in the ballpark of what the pension liability was a couple years ago. So just wanted to point that out, that this will be effective for your audit for fiscal year 18. And then on the top of page 27, this was a standard that was implemented basically at the end of June of 2017, and it changes the requirements for leasing transactions entered into by the district. It essentially gets away from classifying leases as capital or operating to where the capital currently ends up on your balance sheet. Once again, not in your fund financials, but on your government-wide statements. And in operating, you basically expense as you pay. This new standard essentially treats all leases as a financing arrangement. So on a go-forward basis, if you have any leasing transactions, you'll actually start showing a asset and liability regardless of whether or not it's the old capital lease, kind of transaction, or if it's an operating lease. Now there are some caveats. I mean, usually if it's under 12 months, those are typically going to be still expensed as incurred. And the good thing, because it is a pretty significant change in just the concept of how leases are transacted, it won't be effective until fiscal year 21. So we're still a few years out, but I definitely wanted to point it out here tonight because it is, like I said, it is a significant change as far as how leases are going to be reflected on your financial statements on a go-forward basis. So now if you want to turn to page 33, this is your footnote 9 at the bottom of page 33 is your long-term debt footnote. And so the table at the bottom of page 33 just gives a roll forward of your beginning balances, the activity during the year, which once again was the QZABs that were issued, and then the retirements of principal made during the year. And then on page 34, at the top, it breaks out the individual bond series. It shows the maturities, the interest rates, what was outstanding at the end of fiscal year 17, and then also what was due principal-wise at the end of fiscal year 17. So you see principal, about $5.6 million due. As we mentioned before, you had fund balance of about $8.8 million. So you definitely have a healthy fund balance in your debt service fund to meet your current obligations on your bonds. And then on page 35, at the top is a table that shows your future commitments for all your bonds, both by principal and interest, just so that way you can see what's committed as of the end of fiscal year 17. And then beginning on page 49 through page 58, I'm not going to go through these in detail, but these are essentially your combining schedules. As I mentioned earlier, on your balance sheet, you have a column for all your non-major governmental funds on a kind of consolidated basis. Starting on page 49, this breaks these individual funds out so you can see the individual activity of your special revenue funds, your internal service funds, and your fiduciary funds. And as Tony mentioned, beginning on page 64 is the statistical section. So once again, this is required information when submitting a comprehensive annual financial report. This is actually unaudited data. Now we are reviewing it to make sure that financial information in here does tie back to the audited financial statements, but a lot of the information here is definitely more in operational or demographic type of nature. So I just wanted to point that out. And really there haven't been a lot of changes as far as the requirements to what is included in here, but it is a requirement to include these schedules in your comprehensive annual financial report. So now if you want to turn to beginning after page 85 is the federal awards section. And so there's two reports in the federal awards section. The first report is the audit has to be performed in accordance with governmental auditing standards. And so this first report is our report on the district's internal control over financial reporting as well as compliance. So we're looking at the key controls the district has in place related to internal control over financial reporting and also compliance with various state and local regulations. So we want to just point out that there were no material weaknesses in internal control and no reportable instances of non-compliance that we noted during fiscal year 17. The second report is our report on the district's federal awards. We wanted to point out here that we are issuing an unmodified or clean opinion on the major federal program that we tested this year, which was your child nutrition program, and then also that we had no material weaknesses in internal control over compliance for your major federal program. So if now we want to turn to page 90, this details out all of your federal grant awards during fiscal year 17 by grant and also lists out the various expenditures that were incurred during fiscal year 17. And you'll note there was about $8 million roughly of federal expenditures incurred during fiscal year 17. And so beginning on page 92 is your schedule of findings and question costs. And this just summarizes the information we just discussed as far as the two reports and then also the major federal program that was tested. As we noted, we did issue an unmodified or clean opinion on the federal program that we tested, and also there were no material weaknesses in internal control that we noted as part of our audit. And then on page 94, so as part of our audit procedures, not only are we looking at current year activity, but also we're looking at prior year, and if there's any findings that were reported in a prior year audit, we have to communicate in our report the status of that finding as of the end of the next year. And so if you recall last year, there were some instances of non-compliance related to your deposits being under-collateralized throughout the year. And so as part of our procedures this year, we looked through the current year activity, and there actually were a couple of instances that still occurred, but that was actually in September of 2017 prior to the district implementing the corrective action plan that was noted as last year's audit, within last year's audit. So you can see here that has the condition and the status, and that at the end of fiscal year 17, that condition has been corrected, and there were no other issues besides those two that we noted in September of 2016. And so the only other thing we communicate is we have a required communication, which, do they have copies, Tony, of the letter? So you should have a letter in front of you. So this is required communication at the end of the audit with the governing body. And so in this letter, we kind of communicate if there's any significant new accounting policies, which in this year's audit, there were no new significant accounting policies that were implemented. We want to let y'all know that we had no difficulties in performing the audit. We definitely want to thank Tony, Denise, Sally Eckert, and then everyone else here at the district, because we're definitely taking up a lot of their time when we're here at least a week over the summer, and then 2 to 3 weeks at least over in the fall to finalize everything. So we definitely want to make sure we commend them for all their assistance that they provided us during the audit. And then attached to this letter is the representation letter that is signed by management that indicates that they provided us with everything that we needed to perform and complete our audit during the year. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions you guys may have for me.
No questions, just a comment that I've told once in the meeting staff, another year of excellent report. And so, good job to those and make sure you pass it on to your team.
I'd like to respond to that in kind is that yes, without the assistance of all in the business department, and really Ms. Erlinson acted as the primary contact between the audit firm and the district, providing them with the information or access to the individuals that have the information. So a special thanks to her for that. Thank you so much.
All right, do I hear a motion for?
Madam President, I move that we approve the comprehensive annual financial report provided by. Second.
I have a motion for Mr. Holt, a second from Mr. Floyd. What was it? I think you already beat it to it. Yeah, okay. Any further questions or comments for these gentlemen? Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for coming again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tony and Denise, for all of your hard work. All right, moving on to item 6C, which is the tax roll levy for 2017 tax year. So I believe Mr. Hilberg is back up.
Some might argue that this could be a consent item, but since it only happens once a year and there may be some questions, what are we doing? We're giving the board an opportunity. This is actually, the information that is provided is from the tax collector's office, Mr. Gerald John's office now. They provide what they say the levy should be. You have an opportunity to review it and say, yes, we agree, or no, we don't. Hopefully you do. It's a nice levy. And it will continue to change as things settle. Adjustments are made throughout the course of the year. But with your approval, then we submit this back to the county, and then they proceed with issuing the tax bills out to the community.
Move for approval. Second.
I have a motion and a second. The motion was from Mr. Boyce, is that correct? A second from Mr. Holt. Any questions about this tax levy? No? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, and seven, opposed, same sign. Everybody, thank you very much. And moving on to item 6B, which is personnel action for professional employees. So, Ms. Whitman, first time we've seen you tonight.
Good evening. No elections at this time. We're pretty much staffed. We anticipate an election within the next few weeks with the resignation that has not yet been acknowledged. But we do have 4 resignations just for acknowledgement to the board. 3 are retirees. 1 is an actual resignation that had already taken place this month. 1 will also occur in January. Artie Ridman's retiring with his ag position. So we already have that posted. So he is out helping us recruit. The next one would be effective June 8th is Mr. McDavitt, longtime science teacher at Potlawn Elementary. And then Dr. Barolo retiring in June 30th. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Do I hear a motion for approval?
Madam President,
Yes, sir.
I move that we approve the resignations as submitted by the HR.
All right. I have a motion. Do I hear a second? Mr. Amador? All right. Any questions or more comments? No. Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand. Approved, same sign. And the motion carries unanimously. I don't believe we need to go into closed session for anything this evening, which is always good news. So moving on to items 8. I assume we have any concerns or anything that needs to be brought up in the future from any of the board members. No? Okay. I want to remind everybody that Peter Pan starts tomorrow over the auditorium. So I think they're going to have Peter Pan actually flying across that stage. So that in itself is a reason to go. So I encourage all of you to go.
Anything from you, Dr. Gutierrez? All right. With nothing else, no other business at hand, we're going to end this meeting at 8:30 p.m.